Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing. It's the start of a new week. It's Monday, the 22nd of September. My name is Ryan McGinley. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Josh McCarthy. Josh, how you doing?
Yeah, doing very well, thanks, Ryan. Been a good weekend, obviously a good one for Celtic on Sunday, so yeah, doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Things are good, yeah. It's always result dependent when it comes to Celtic, but 4 nothing to the Hoops, and they're through to the semi finals where they'll be playing against a familiar foe in Rangers in the semi final of the Premier Sports Cup. Before we get into that and we talk about Brendan Rodgers' comments as well as the game as a whole, I want to give a massive shout out to our sponsors for today's video and all of our videos moving forward for the foreseeable future. It's Simply Furniture. They're located in Hillington, Glasgow. It's Simply Furniture is an independent brand dedicated to bringing luxury and contemporary style into homes across the UK. With over a decade of experience in furniture retail, they meticulously source only the finest pieces, curated for quality, comfort and timeless design. From elegant sofas to statement dining sets, their hand-picked collections offer exceptional value without compromising on style. Their dedicated team ensures that their furniture is delivered with care right to your doorstep. If you want to see their beauty up close, then visit their stunning showroom and mention the Celtic Way for a special in-store discount, and all the links are in the description below this video. First of all, I think the best place to start is to talk about the football that happened on the pitch. Josh, from yesterday, Celtic 4-0 winners, goals from Yang, Scales, Luke McCowan at the end, and it was Sebastian Tenki who scored his first goal for Celtic. Great assist from Ian for that one. What did you make of the game, and what are your thoughts on what transpired on the pitch for Brendan Rodgers' side?
Yeah, I think it was a good win on the whole. Maybe expected Brendan Rodgers to make more changes to the side. Maybe I thought the likes of Carter Vickers would have maybe dropped out, Hatate, McGregor even too, but he went kind of strong in his lineup, and that transpired with the performance on the pitch as well. You know, the game was more or less won with those two quick fire goals. In the first half, I probably wasn't alone in thinking that Yang had somehow missed his header at the back post. I didn't
Me too.
think it had initially gone in. It was a really good header from Liam Scales. Benjamin Negram very good in that first half. These two assists for the goals providing there, and Sebastian Tounekti, really good finish. I said on the one of the morning briefings last week that I didn't want to put too much expectations on his shoulders with Sebastian Tenekti, but yet again he really impressed me. Another man of the match performance, and he gets his goal, so he's continuing to perform well. Kelechi Iheanacho, although he had a quiet performance, some of his link-up play was very effective. Gets the assist for the goal. I don't think you'd ever see Adamida make a wee touch like that round the corner to make an assist like that. So that was pleasing to see as well in the subs making an impact. Balikwisha, I thought actually was pretty decent when he came on, won the ball back well for Luke McCowan's goal. So that was good to see as well. Sinisalo getting a clean sheet coming back into the side. So on the whole, there were a lot of positives to take. But I think you've got to bear in mind that it was a championship side in Partick Thistle, and you probably were expecting a result along those lines. But in the cup, you still have to go out and win the game, and that's exactly what Celtic did.
Yeah, they did, and they did it in some style as well, keeping a clean sheet, as you quite rightly said, despite maybe a couple of hiccups defensively in the first half and in the second half from both Cameron Carter Vickers and Liam Scales. I think the steadiness came from Kieran Tierney and especially Colby Donovan rather than the centre backs. Is that maybe a cause for concern going into Wednesday? The fact that Liam Scales and Cameron Carter Vickers were a little bit shaky in possession in a couple of moments, a couple of stray passes, or are you quite happy that they're making those mistakes against Partick Thistle where they won't be punished rather than against Red Star Belgrade, who seem to be like a free scoring side at the moment?
Yeah, you'd rather than be doing it in a game like that when they're likely not going to get punished against players who
Mm.
are not as high quality than do it on Wednesday night. But to be honest, I don't think the pitch helped them. I think the pitch was quite bobbly. Brendan Rodgers alluded to that in his post-match with Premier Sports after the game, that it wasn't an ideal surface, and that probably didn't help Carter Vickers or Scales either. But like you said, I thought Tierney had a really solid 90 minutes, which was good to see. Colby Donovan, yet again, as well, quite impressive. Didn't really put a foot wrong. He's not doing anything wrong at the minute, and that's all you can ask from a young player coming into the side. So those two were good. But I expect Carter Vickers and Scales to brush those mistakes aside, and I'm sure they'll be fine on Wednesday.
Yeah, completely agree with that, and I'm glad that the clean sheet was kept, especially by Sinisalo. It was a really good save in the second half. It's one that he should make, but at the same time, good for him to come into the side. You know, he didn't keep a clean sheet in his last appearance against Falkirk. There's not really much he could do about that. Falkirk goal was a tremendous finish from the player, but he kept a clean sheet today. Or yesterday rather, and yeah, he looked impressive whenever maybe a couple of hairy moments where the defence or the attack, Partick Thistle's attack was getting close to his feet, but he dealt with everything that came his way and he got a clean sheet. Are you quite happy to see Sinisalo get more game time and become that designated cup goalkeeper ahead of what you would hope and what we would expect him to be the main man next season in all competitions?
Yeah, I think he needed the cup competitions this season. Maybe some people expected him to get them last year. Obviously didn't. He had his run in the team towards the end of the campaign. But no, I think him getting the cup games was crucial this season. The thing is, are you going to play him when you get to Hampden in the semi-final and the final if Celtic are lucky enough to get there? That's the big question. I guess we'll see. We'll find out if he plays against Rangers. In that semi-final at the beginning of November. He has experience in the derby from the end of last season. But yeah, I don't think he put a foot wrong yesterday. A couple of shaky moments. There was one cross, I think, in the second half that he didn't really manage to get. But when he was called into action, when he did have to make a save, he was there. And I think that's the only real save he had to make in the 90 minutes. So yeah, I have no real concerns surrounding Sinisalo, and I'd like to see him get the semi-final.
Yeah, and listen, that's the life of a Celtic goalkeeper as well, especially domestically. They're not going to do a lot with their hands. It's more with their feet nowadays that they'll be doing a lot of the work in terms of the build-up play from the back. But when you're called upon, even if it is once or twice in a game, you're going to be judged on those moments. And he kept the ball out of his net. So for me, he did a good job on the day, and I'm delighted for him. Hopefully he can get many more appearances in the Cups, certainly, but if called upon in the Premiership and in Europe as well. I'm just going to touch on Brendan Rodgers' comments after the game. It was a pretty good press conference, lots of answers. Big thanks to Tony for getting the quotes for us. We've got them on the site pretty quickly yesterday. Couldn't obviously speak about them in the post-match because they were still getting written up at that point, but we can go back and touch on them now. Just on his Brendan Rodgers' thoughts after the game, he said that he thought that they played very, very well. Come to Partick, Mark Wilson's team has been doing really, really well, really consistent over these last number of weeks, and these can be really tricky games, but I thought we handled it really well. Our football was really good, intense, scored goals, and were aggressive when we didn't have the ball, and it was a really professional performance. I think we're building. It's very, very difficult to be hot all year round. Last year we started like a house on fire, and maybe towards the end of the season we just dropped off a little bit. This season, obviously, with everything over the summer, it's taken a bit of time, but we're building rhythm and confidence, and I thought that you could see that today. So yes, it's such a long season, still very early, but seeing that today shows that we are on the right path. Would you agree with what Brendan Rodgers is saying? Because, you know, it was a bit cagey a couple of weeks ago now against Kilmarnock, got that late goal from Kelechi Iheanacho, and I know it was only a championship side and Celtic are expected to get through to the next round, but away from home 4-0, that does show that the signs do look more promising than what they did a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, I think it was a real confidence booster for everyone, you know, the manager, the players, I think the supporters as well, to see Celtic go on and put a performance like that, whether it's no matter who it's against, and keep a clean sheet and score a lot of goals, your new signings performing, I think it really lifts the whole mood surrounding the club, especially going into a big game like Wednesday night. I would go as far to say it's probably one of Celtic's best performances of the season so far, and yeah, certainly echo the manager's comments and his sentiment there. At the end of the game, it's just about improving on that, though. You don't want to rest on that. You need to get better. You need to keep that consistency in terms of the performances. Like you said, it's been a kind of an interesting start to the season, a wee bit of an inconsistent start to the season in terms of performances on the pitch, but that's 2 wins now from this block of games. I know when the manager and the coaching staff are looking at the schedule, they divide it into wee blocks, and this block is certainly a tough one, a packed schedule. And to start it with 2 wins out of 2, that will have been the target, and it's just about carrying that on in terms of the displays now, taking it into Wednesday night.
Yeah, 6 goals scored, only 1 conceded in these 2 games. I think people would much rather see that than, you know, having a couple of 1-0 wins. You know, yes, you want to see clean sheets, but it's good that Celtic are scoring goals, and they're scoring goals from all over the pitch as well, and getting assists from all over the pitch too, which is brilliant to see. And it's good to see that the goals are spread out. As much as I would like a striker to be scoring 25-30 goals a season, Brendan Rodgers will always be brought back to those comments where he says he doesn't want his forward to be doing that, and he wants the goals all over the team. Well, it seems like now he's getting that from all areas. You know, you've got your centre back scoring. Liam Scales, a good header, even though I think the goalkeeper maybe could have done a little bit better with it. You've got Luke McCowan coming on and making an impact. Sebastian Tounekti making an impact with a goal. Benjamin Nigren with 2 assists. He's actually a player that I want to touch upon because Tony and I spoke about him yesterday. He's a player that I think divides a lot of opinion online, and I think a lot of people have already made their mind up about the player. Now, multiple opinions can be true about a player, and yes, he can be pretty slack on the ball, and from set pieces he can sometimes be left wanting, especially with that one that he put right over in the first half. But I think you've got to maybe judge him fairly, and the fact that he got 2 assists in the same game. So despite him having a couple of slack moments, I don't know if you agree with me, Josh, but to get 2 assists, that's his game. His main game is to get assists for Celtic and to make things happen. He scores goals, he makes assists. I think it'll all come together for him. So the fact that even maybe if he's not playing at his utmost best at the moment, the fact that he's still contributing with assists shows as a measure of the player and the player that he can be for Celtic.
Yeah, and it says a lot that Brendan Rodgers is continually starting him. You know, he's the one
Absolutely.
who's consistently getting the nod ahead of Engels, ahead of Bernardo and McCowan. He's starting every game, and listen, I think he had 3 goals as well leading into that game in a Celtic shirt, and then he gets the 2 assists as well. So, yeah, I think frustrating at times in some of his performances, like you say, stray passes and such. But if you're contributing to goals and assists, it can kind of cover over it, and it can make up for it. So he's a creative player. I think he'll improve as the season goes on once he gets more consistency and he does well. And I have no doubts really about Benjamin Negrin. He's one who, when he initially came in, I remember seeing him in pre-season, and a lot of people were very, very impressed. And it came into the first couple of league games, Champions League tie with Kairat, and maybe people having question marks over him. But I think I don't really have many concerns over Negrin. I think he'll keep doing well, and he has goals and assists in his game, and that's what Celtic need from an attacking midfielder.
Yeah, and we've witnessed how important he can be in European games as well, as he did for his previous club in FC Nordsjælland. He was scoring goals against the likes of Fenerbahce. He'll be coming up against similar levels of quality on Wednesday night against Red Star Belgrade. So the fact that he can be an outball in Europe and score goals away from home will be so important for Celtic. And I think having a goal-scoring midfielder, an area where since the exit of Matt O'Reilly, and I know that Callum McGregor sort of took up the mantle last season and scored goals from long range, but Celtic have missed that, and the fact that they've got a player that can both score and assist from the attacking midfield role, the number 8 position as well. It's kind of a fluid midfield that they play in, but the fact that he can make that impact for Celtic bodes well for those upcoming games, both in the Premiership, in the Cup, and in Europe as well. Just going on to some more comments that Brendan Rodgers gave after the game. He was talking about the third goal in particular, which for me was the standout goal of the game, to be honest. It was just great all-round play from Celtic. I think it was only like a minute after the restart, and Celtic immediately controlled the narrative in the game, because at 2-0, if Partick Thistle get a goal, they were even speaking about it at half-time, if Partick Thistle get a goal, then it's game on. And yeah, it could be a nervy end to the game, but Celtic put that to bed really quickly. Great 1-2 from Tounekti to Iheanacho to back to Tounekti, and a great finish from the winger, his first goal in Celtic colours, and another really good performance from him yesterday. Brendan Rodgers was saying, we looked to come through and press early in the second half, and we were able to play through that press. Sebastian's made a great impact since he's come in. He's got great speed, really good in the 1v1s. Kelechi is very good. I know him well in those tight spaces and around the box. He's got a lovely touch, and his set-up play for the goal was excellent. I'm glad for Sebastian, because that's one area when I spoke to him before he came in that he felt that we could improve his game, because for him to keep progressing, he's got big talent, but he needs to add numbers to his game. That's very similar comments to the ones that Rodgers made about Nicholas Kuhn, and once the numbers came into his game, he was a different player altogether. But 2 games in, 2 player of the match performances, it's the Sebastian Tounekti show at the moment, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, he's doing really, really well. He's come in, he's made an impact, and that's what you want from a winger, especially when Celtic were in the position they were before he came in terms of their wide players. You know, there weren't many making an impact. They didn't have a lot of depth, but Tounekti's been a real breath of fresh air. He looks to take on his man. He looks to excite. He can get to the byline. He can also cut inside like he did for his goal, play a nice 1-2 around the corner, and have end product, which was good to see. I think one thing Celtic can't afford to do, though, in terms of their front line, is get too reliant on Sebastian Tounekti. They can't have their performances relying on him performing as well. You know, he's only a 22-year-old player who's coming to a new country and looking to settle in still. He has made 2 appearances and done really well, but you can't expect him to keep up that level of performance every week and every game when you have a tight schedule like this. So they need to make sure that sort of Michelangelo Balikwisha is also fully firing too. It's good for Yang to get that goal as well for his confidence yesterday. But they can't become too reliant on Tounekti as much as he is doing well, and that's been good to see as well.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree with everything that you've said there. Yeah, it's a funny one with Yang, isn't it? Because he scored the opening goal in the game. Now this time, 2-3 weeks ago, I think everybody was expecting Yang to leave. I think Yang himself was expecting to leave the club and go to Birmingham City. That seemed to be what was transpiring on that day, but it fell through due to the fact that Birmingham City couldn't complete the transfer in the required time. They also went and signed Patrick Roberts as well, which is not a bad signing for their squad and their front line. But I think that shows you. And last week, I thought that Yang's attitude was spot on as well, because he was driving forward at Rugby Park trying to make things happen. He's not the perfect player. He's not the finished article. He will frustrate a lot of supporters and probably his manager as well with some of his decision making. But oh, my goodness, he tries hard. It's not through a lack of trying. If he doesn't do well in a game, he'll keep on going and keep on going. And he got his reward yesterday. Did I think that he missed the header and that he'd put it wide? Yes, as did I think many people watching it on the TV. But it was actually a really good header, and the defender tried his best to keep the ball out of his own net, and he kind of shoulders it in. It's such a weird goal, but I'm delighted for him. And you'd rather that goes in than out, to be honest.
Yeah,
a good day for Yang.
Yeah, definitely. He never hides. That's one thing about him. He's always trying his best. He's always looking to get on the ball, run at defenders, like you say, and that's all you can ask really for a guy who maybe isn't at the level that Celtic require in terms of a winger. But as long as he's there, he's going to try his best, and that's all you can really ask from him. And he gets his goal. He didn't really do much else in the game, if I'm honest. I can't recall him standing out or having any magic moments aside from popping up at the back post with a header.
Yeah, there was one point where he beats his man and then Rio Hatate stabs it wide, the opposite end of the post.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, aside from that though, it doesn't really do much. It's difficult, like, because Yang and James Forrest are Celtic's 2 only right wingers, and Brendan Rodgers kind of alluded to that in his pre-match press conference, that he made a mistake playing Balikwisha on the right because that's not his natural position. So I just wonder, going forward, is Yang going to be the starting guy on the right, or is Sebastian Tounekti going to get a go on the right? James Forrest, obviously, he's getting on in years now, so he's probably not going to be able to start a lot of games on a consistent basis. That's going to be intriguing to see how that situation pans out on the right-hand side there. But for Yang, maybe his performance wasn't quite there, but to get the goal was good. And it's a sign of his commitment to Celtic as well, that he keeps trying and he keeps doing well. His head could easily wander. He wanted away. He was in Birmingham on his way to Birmingham, almost securing the move. But like I say, it's good and a testament to his levels of commitment and desire that he's still willing to play for Celtic and try his best.
Yep, absolutely, completely agree with that. And good to see him contributing as well, because for some players they could easily go in a bit of a huff if they don't get their move. But it seems that he understands that, he might move away in January. He might not be the only player that moves away in January. I think there's going to be a lot of spotlight and focus on the January transfer window, both in terms of incomings and outgoings. And I think Celtic's European campaign will be key to that as well, specifically if they do really well to begin with and they need extra reinforcements because they might play potentially in the latter stages. Fingers crossed that is the case. I'd like to see Celtic win a knockout tie for once in my life, but we live and wait for that one. A good moment yesterday for Kieran Tierney, and Tony and I spoke about this yesterday towards the end of the post-match reaction, which is available to watch on the YouTube page if you want some extra content. Kieran Tierney completed 90 minutes for the first time since his return. You also put up a great tweet, and I don't want to say the exact number, I don't want to butcher the number. I'm sure you've got it in your head, the amount of days it's been since Kieran Tierney last played 90 minutes. I believe it was for Scotland as well. But Brendan Rodgers was talking about how big a moment that was for him, not just physically, but psychologically. He said, yes, psychologically, I felt that it was important for him. He hasn't played a 90 in a long, long time. I'm going to put you on the spot in a minute here, and ask you how long it's been. But for him to push himself to get over the hill was very important. And yes, I thought he was, especially in the first half. The combination with him and Sebastian on that side was outstanding. He's gone through a lot, not just physically, but mentally. There's a stress on a player that you can never understand unless you've had really bad injuries, and what that does to you and what it makes you think, and whenever you're pushing yourself. And when you're young and fresh and haven't got many injuries, then you're just free and you're 100%. When you know that you've been out for maybe periods of time, it can psychologically hurt you, but he's getting over that, and it's just every day getting better and improving. Today, it's good for him to get the 90 minutes. Big moment for Kieran Tierney, playing the 90 minutes. How long has it been, Josh, since he's last done that?
So he actually played 90 minutes in a pre-season friendly for Celtic against Sporting Lisbon, I believe. But if you're looking at actual games, it was 471 days ago for Scotland. It was a friendly as well against Finland. So if I'm going to be going by the total rule book, if you're looking at a competitive game of football, it was January 2024 for Real Sociedad, actually against Osasuna, if we're going all the way back there. But in terms of a game, I would class the Scotland game as being probably his last 90 minutes, which was 471 days ago. So like Brendan Rodgers said, massive for him to get that under his belt. Psychologically, it's absolutely crucial. He's going to be a player for Celtic who was always going to have to build that up. And he spoke about that. Tierney spoke to Premier Sports after the game, and he has a lot of faith and a lot of thanks to the manager and the coaching staff for allowing him to build that up over time. They know he was never going to be perfect, and maybe that's been the case with his performances over the past couple of weeks. I felt they've maybe not been quite there, but yesterday I thought he was really good. He looked robust, he looked fit, and hopefully that's the first of many 90 minutes we see Kieran Tierney complete. And I think Brendan Rodgers is a really good manager in terms of managing people's game times and their minutes and how they're doing. We saw that last season when Celtic had that ultra marathon. He did really well with the squad. There weren't many significant injuries. So this season, I think I have full confidence in the manager to manage Tierney's fitness and build that up over time.
What did you make of the Brendan Rodgers was saying it was outstanding in the first half, but what did you make of Sebastian Tounekti's partnership with Kieran Tierney down that left-hand side?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think that's going to be a key partnership for Celtic this season, because everyone would agree that Tounekti is going to be the first choice left winger, and that Tierney is going to be the first choice left back, playing consistently. So those two linking up for the first time was good to see. That relationship will only develop and improve the more games they play with each other. But Tierney said it was a joy to play with Tounekti after the game, and I think anyone would agree it's a joy watching him play. So to play alongside him would be even better. But yeah, I think those guys can link up well, especially in Europe for Celtic. They're two high quality players you can see already, so seeing them in the big European games will be good as well, and I think that relationship will blossom over time.
Yeah, and it seems that the bromance has grown now, actually, because I was talking about the Brendan Rodgers and Sebastian Tounekti bromance with the cuddle that they had in that Lennoxtown Unfiltered. Everybody saw the cuddle that they had when he came off yesterday, so it shows that he really, really likes the look of this player. And then you hear from Kieran Tierney saying it's a joy to play with him. Not a bad start for a player that's only, he's only played 2 games and he's already, I know that you also keep up to date with what's going on Instagram as well, on social media. It's a pretty good place to gauge all the relationships between the players. He's been on Kelechi Iheanacho's Instagram. Kelechi Iheanacho's been on Tounekti's Instagram. I think that shows you that there's a bit of harmony in this squad amidst all the protests off the field, and fans are completely well within their right to protest what's going on at the moment, and we will see that more and more as the weeks and months go on. But certainly there seems to be this harmony on the pitch, and it's shown off of it on social media as well, because they're all quick to congratulate each other, and that's good to see, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what you want, especially when the situation is like as off the field. You really want the players to rally around and have a sort of mentality that they're not going to consider what's going on off the pitch in terms of when they're playing and their performances. And I think that's down to the manager managing that well yet again, and keeping everything in-house. I think he's really good at that. But obviously supporters are well within their rights to do what they're doing in protest. I think it's fully warranted. But to have the players building those relationships, I mean, Iheanacho and Tounekti have only really been at the club for a fortnight, and they're seemingly very close already, which is good to see. And you want those relationships to continually blossom, because as much as playing well on the park is a big part of succeeding in football, you need to have good chemistry and relationships off it as well, and have that harmony in the squad, like you say, because that can be a really big factor as well in terms of how you're doing, and having a good relationship between all the players in the squad.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers was also talking about how potentially this game is good preparation for the game against Red Star Belgrade. I don't want to butcher their actual name. I'll get used to that in the coming days, just so that if I'm asked on a video, I'll be able to pronounce what they're actually called in Serbian. But he said, yes, I think any good win, good performance, clean sheet going into Europe is always good. Lots of players are getting good game time. People may be looking and thinking, well, why do you not make more changes? But actually, a lot of the players haven't been playing so much. That's him talking. He actually mentioned that pre-match as well, about the lack of rotation. If you think of the international break, a lot of the players sometimes that went on international duty didn't get a lot of game time. So if they didn't play today, it could have been a long time before they played. So the guys coming off the bench impacting the game as well. We look forward to that game there on Wednesday. Before we talk about Wednesday's game, in fact, we'll talk about it just now and then we'll talk about the semi-final. What are you expecting on Wednesday in Belgrade against Red Star? It's a tough game. They're a good side Celtic are coming up against. It'll be an intimidating atmosphere. What are you expecting from Wednesday's game?
Expecting exactly what you say, a tough game, difficult atmosphere to play in. They do have Marko Arnautovic in their ranks, playing up front for them. Red Star still running about there. They won the Belgrade derby at the weekend, so they're in good form. They've not had many bad results this season. They were knocked out of Champions League qualifying at the playoff stage by Paphos. But aside from that, they've made a really good start to the season. They've won 7 out of 7 league games. I think they've only conceded 5 goals, if I'm correct, in their 7 league games so far. So they are doing well. They're flying at the minute. So it's going to be tough for Celtic to go over there and look to get a result. I think it's a team Celtic have played in recent history. So yeah, I'm expecting a really difficult game. Actually going over there. It's obviously the start of the Europa League campaign. You want to start on a positive note, but I think it's going to be a difficult one for Celtic.
Yeah, and just looking ahead quickly, or just going maybe a couple of months ahead, just over a month, and Celtic will be playing in the semi-final. The draw was done immediately after the game. I've got to say, I quite like the swiftness of the way the draw was done. You know, there's not too much messing about, straight into the draw. Quick draw to do, only 4 teams to bring out of the hat, of course. It was St Mirren against Motherwell for the first semi-final, and then the Glasgow Derby, Celtic versus Rangers, on either the 1st or the 2nd of November. We're just waiting on a bit of clarity on when that will be. Interesting to see when that will be and what time that game will be at as well. As it always is, there's always interest when it comes to what time the Glasgow Derby is getting played on or played at. But it's a Glasgow Derby, and there's still a lot of time between now and the 1st or 2nd of November. Plenty of things can change for both sides, both in terms of form. We've also got to take into account potentially the manager as well that Celtic might be coming up against. You know, the protests continued at Ibrox. It's protest central in Glasgow at the moment, but there was plenty of protests on Saturday despite Rangers going through against Hibs. Brendan Rodgers was speaking about the draw because that's the thing, because of how swift the draw was, he could speak about it in the press conference as well, which was really good because it gave us some extra quotes. He said, so the question was, and now you've got a big draw versus Rangers in the semi-final. He replied, yes, I think that whatever team you play in the semi-final going to Hampden, I think that was important for us to get back there. A lot of games are in between now and then, and hopefully between now and then we can build a rhythm and keep growing and arrive in a good place for the semi-final. Ibrox was, I said it at the time for both teams, Ibrox wasn't a great game, to be honest. Obviously my worry was only Celtic, so we weren't in our best place. Even though in other times you go to Ibrox and get a point, it might be deemed okay, but for me, as I said, it's just about trusting the team and trusting how we work and trusting the players, which I do. Can see the fluency starting to arrive. He also said that Rangers will be coming up against a better Celtic side than the one they played at Ibrox shortly before the international break, at the start or at the end of last month, start of this month. So they'll be coming up against a better Celtic side. What are your thoughts? Your thoughts on the fact that Celtic have drawn their Glasgow rivals and Rangers?
Yeah, I think if you're going to win the cup competitions, you're going to come up against Rangers at some point. And I think the majority of Celtic fans would probably agree with me that they'd rather play them in a semi-final than a final. So if you
Tony
lose the
made that
final,
exact point.
yeah, when you lose the final to Rangers as a Celtic supporter, it's a horrible feeling. So to get them in the semi-final was probably better. In terms of the game as a whole as well, I think finals against Rangers can be very nervy affairs. I mean, it wasn't particularly nervy the last one, the 3-each game at Hampden, but they can be nervy sometimes. But yeah, in a semi, I think it's still going to be a massive game. 6 weeks' time, so like you say, the narratives and everything can change, both in terms of the dugouts, on the pitch, players can get injured. Brendan Rodgers saying Rangers will see a different Celtic. I think it's a crucial game for Brendan Rodgers because Celtic haven't beat Rangers in 90 minutes in over a year now. It's going to be well over a year. By the time they go into that game, it'll be 14 months. In fact, since they last beat Rangers in 90 minutes going into that semi-final. So it's crucial for the manager that he gets over this duck and breaks this duck of managing to beat Rangers. And no better way to do it than in the semi-final of a cup competition. So it'll be a difficult game, but it's one that Celtic should look forward to. Players like Tounekti, Iheanacho getting to play in this game for the first time. That should be intriguing to see if they both manage to stay fit before then. So, yeah, already looking forward to it, but there's still a lot of football to be played between now and then.
Yeah, and plenty of things can change for both teams, as I mentioned before. Is there anything else that you want to touch upon? Maybe any players that have maybe gone under the radar from that game against Partick Thistle? I know there's been a few people in the comments saying that Hatate wasn't up to it, but I actually thought it was one of his better games yesterday. Maybe I'll say that because I'm a fan of the player, green tinted specs and all that, but I did think he had a better game yesterday and he was involved. I think I don't know, I think he's in people's crosshairs if he doesn't play to his best, and he's one of these emotional players that people will latch on to negatively if he doesn't do good, because there's an expectancy and because people know how good he can be. But I thought yesterday he was absolutely fine. I thought most players were fine yesterday and they got the job done. But is there anywhere else that you want to discuss about what happened on the pitch yesterday?
Not particularly, but just on Hatate, he makes a really good pass in the build-up to the third goal to unleash Sebastian Tounekti on the left-hand side. I think it's just difficult because sometimes midfielders' performances, if you're just a normal football fan like we are, they're sometimes very difficult. Exactly, there you go. Are sometimes difficult for supporters to judge, just because of when, particularly for a player like Hatate, he can be very bipolar at times. He's either brilliant or he's either not great in the minds of a lot of people, but sometimes he just has a performance that's maybe a 6, a 7 out of 10, and I think that was probably the case yesterday for him. I think when Rio Hatate's on it, he's the best midfielder in Scotland. I don't think anyone would disagree with me in that sense. But he's not really had a performance this season where you've gone, Rio Hatate was outstanding today. So for him, that's about trying to get that performance. I think there'd be no better time to do that than Wednesday.
Conversely, you're pretty excited with that because that performance is still to come from Rio Hatate, and we know that if he plays well in games, Celtic tend to win those games because he's that instrumental in the middle of the park. He's the sort of metronome. He keeps Celtic ticking. Just want to bring up this comment before we finish. Is it the National Stadium the Red Star Belgrade playing it is? Yeah, because I watched a game recently. In fact, England were playing Serbia. And you just look up these international stadiums, and I did check, and it was Red Star Belgrade's stadium that Serbia also use. So yeah, it'll be an intimidating atmosphere. It'll be interesting to see the attendance for the game as well, because I'm pretty sure they were giving out some tickets for free in order to fill the stadium fully. So I mean, a free ticket, I don't think many people will reject that. So we'll see how busy it's going to be on Wednesday night. Just a quick reminder that Celtic are playing on Wednesday night, despite the fact that it's the Europa League. Every other game will be on Thursday, but the fact that it's on a Wednesday means that Celtic can then play on Saturday against Hibs at home, and what will be another interesting and difficult game, but a game that I think Celtic will be looking forward to as well, against a team that will attack them and will leave spaces in the back as a result. Josh, anything else that you want to discuss? I think we've spoke about every sort of big comment. There was also comments about Colby Donovan, but Brendan Rodgers has been waxing lyrical about him for the past few days now, so we'd probably be going over old ground. Anything else that you want to discuss regarding Celtic?
Not particularly. I think just on Colby Donovan, there's a really good moment at the end of the game. Brendan Rodgers lets him take the applause of the Celtic support, let him have his moment, which was great to see. I think that will do his confidence the world of good. So I'm intrigued to see whether Colby actually starts on Wednesday night. I know Brendan Rodgers said that Tony Ralston's back in training today, so let's see who gets the nod on Wednesday.
Yeah, very, very interesting to see that. I think Ralston's training today. So yeah, we'll see what happens on that front. But I think regardless of who plays, you would expect him to do a job. But it would be more of a test for Colby Donovan if he is to play in that game, and his defensive qualities would be not called into question, but tested against a strong Red Star Belgrade side. Thank you so much, Josh, for coming on this morning. Really appreciate your efforts. As always, a massive thank you to It's Simply Furniture. All of their links are in the description. If you want a special discount as well, be sure to mention our name and you'll get a discount if you shop with them. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video and all of our videos for the foreseeable future. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow to discuss the upcoming Europa League tie against Red Star Belgrade. Until then, keep it with the Celtic way. We'll have more articles coming out today, both news-wise, interviews as well, some analysis as well ahead of the game. But yeah, keep it with the Celtic way. Thank you so much for supporting us, and we'll see you all at the same time tomorrow.